Good morning, everybody. We're here for another episode of Standing Out, daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership. I'm Trey Griggs of Beta Consulting Group. And before we start the show today, we just want to give a shout out to all of our friends down in the Florida area who are dealing with the ramifications of Hurricane Ian, and just making sure everybody's staying safe down there. And we're praying for you, hoping the best, wishing for the best. Make sure you touch in with people around the country who know you and love you so that we know that you're okay. But we're praying for you guys and hope that you guys stay safe. All right, it is time to start the show. Let's go. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today for Standing Out. Again, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, leadership. We got a great show for you today. I'm super excited to bring on our guests today. We got a lot of good things happening. In fact, we've had phenomenal guests all week on this show. So go back and check out some of those on demand. Had a great conversation on Monday with Melanie Patterson. She's awesome from Chicago. We talked with Women in Trucking with Ellen Voya on Tuesday, which they got an upcoming conference, Accelerate. So check that out online when you get a chance. It's going to be in Dallas, Texas in November. Had an awesome conversation yesterday with Kyle Malacher, a jack of all trades and a great guy over at Fox Logistics. Great conversation. Today, my guest is Brenda. She's a motivational speaker. Can't wait to bring her on. And tomorrow, we've got Michael Stolarczyk from Seco Logistics. We've got a lot of great conversations coming up. You can check all of them out on demand after the fact on LinkedIn, Live, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and anywhere that you get your podcast. So be sure to check those episodes out if you missed them. And I'm super excited that you're with us today. Also, while we're here, we want to say thank you to our sponsor, the TAFs, are the good guys in freight factoring, helping carriers and owner-operators keeping those wheels turning with factoring services, discounts on insurance, tires, all kinds of great stuff. And we appreciate truck drivers. So if you're behind the wheel of a truck, first of all, thank you so much. We appreciate what you're doing, especially those truck drivers who are going to be taking those loads, those FEMA loads, into Florida to provide supplies and resources during their time of recovery down there in Florida. So that's a very dangerous job. It's a very difficult job to drive into places where everything is kind of all over the place and they're going to sit for a long time. They're not going to have resources. There's probably not going to be fuel down there. So they're going to have to make sure they have enough when they go in and out. It's a pretty crazy wild ride. So we just want to thank truck drivers for what they're doing, especially helping out with hurricane relief efforts. Be sure to go check them out at tafs.com. Let them know that Trey sent you, or click on the link that we're going to put into the comments today. That takes you right to my landing page so you can get started with them right away. Make sure that you tell them that Trey sent you. Also, while you're surfing the internet after the show, go to our website at betaconsultinggroup.com. See how we're helping companies to tell their stories and move out of the realm of obscurity into becoming a well-known brand. That's what we love to do. We love to help you with those as well. So fill out a form. We'll follow up with you. We'd love to help you out with building your brand, telling your story, making sales easier, all that fun stuff that goes along with marketing and building a brand. All right, let's go ahead and bring our guest in today. Super excited to have her on the show. I met her recently, and we just connected and realized that there's a lot of synergy, and she does some really cool stuff. She's got a phenomenal story, an entrepreneur at heart, and somebody who just wants to help other people succeed. So please welcome my good friend, Brenda Wood. Hey,
Hello.
Brenda, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It is great to have you on the show today. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. We had the chance to actually meet up in person recently, which was awesome.
Mhm.
And this is something I've really been looking forward to. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll take a few seconds here. There might be some people in my network in particular who may not know who you are. Now, obviously, you have a good following and a lot of people know you are, but a lot of people in my network might not. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're up to with becoming the best you and the other things that you're doing.
Yeah, well, I'm Brenda Ringwood. I go by Bren, and my tagline is I'm the professor of change because I believe that change is possible, that if people really want to change their life, that they can. So we have this movement called Becoming the Best You. And we do events, we have a lot of free stuff for people to help them out. We do virtual events as well as in person, and then we have a little TV show. So we truly want to see people succeed in what their goals, what their dreams are to become the best version of themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's where the synergy really lined up, and I fell in love with what you were doing, the message that you have. Because I'm a teacher at heart. I was a high school physics teacher for a long time and a coach. And when you're in that realm, you want to help people
Mhm.
succeed. I was a youth pastor for a while as well. We've talked about our ministry backgrounds a little bit. So that's where the synergy really came in. When did you realize that this is the path that you really wanted to go down? Because you've had entrepreneurial experiences
Mhm.
before, you've dealt with really hard times, which we'll get into. When did you realize, and this is what I want to spend my time and make my impact in this way?
Well, I'm doing now what I've always wanted to do, what I should have been doing, but I allowed the world's view of life to dictate how I was going to live it. So I just decided no more. I'm going to do what's best for me, and I'm going to make the necessary changes in my life to become the person that I need to be, that my family deserves me to be, and who God wants me to be. So I just decided I was gonna completely change my mindset and change my actions to do exactly what I'm doing now.
I love that you call yourself the professor of change because
Mhm.
I think that sometimes people feel stuck. They're just
Mm.
not sure how they can get out of their current situation or change their current situation for the better. And I love the fact that you're talking about that and wanting to do that. When you say this is what I was always supposed to be doing, but let the world, I think a lot of us do that. I think
We
that's really
do.
common. I think it's more common than not that we get into this pattern of what is expected of us, what we think other people expect of us, whether that's our parents,
Mhm.
could be friends, it could be a spouse of what people expect. Could be a boss or a leader or somebody in our life. Like that's a really big thing that we fall into sometimes, and that's I think people just don't know how to begin. When you think about this from the standpoint, I mean, you're very positive. Change can happen, but for some
Mhm.
people that it doesn't seem possible. How do you start that conversation with somebody to say, no, it is possible? And let me tell you the first step.
Well, first, I like to see where they're at, why they think that they can't change, and usually you gotta get down to that root problem.
Right.
The stuff that's on the surface is not the problem, that's just a symptom. So, I like to see exactly what it is that they think they want their life to look like, and then take it step by step, and sometimes you have to break it down to the priority level of what can I do first to get to the next step, and if you don't address the root of the problem, that change is not gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a big part of it. For me, my story is I went to counseling,
Mhm,
and in counseling, that's when things started to change because I started to figure out who I really was, what was really going on under the surface. And when you don't figure out what's going on under the surface, you never really get to the root of what's actually happening, like you said, and figuring out what's going on. We talked about this a little bit. How much does I don't think people also recognize this. How much does the wiring that we receive in our minds, the programming that we receive from being a kid impact us as adults, and people just don't recognize that.
it's a huge impact. I don't like to say I'm blaming it on childhood because I made some very huge mistakes in my life as an adult, and I had a great childhood, but we tend to go back to what we know, or the way that we were raised, we think we're not good enough, or because this happened, I can't do what I really want to do. So it does affect us. It shapes our mindset.
Yeah, it radically does. Like I think the word that we often use is worldview. Like
Yes,
it's the way that you like the glasses that you have and the way that you see the world. And the truth is, we didn't get a choice a lot of times as kids. Like we didn't choose the influences that our parents put in front of us, but yet we have to figure out a way to deal with that in life.
that's
And so
right.
often it kind of cripples us a little bit or holds us back or makes it difficult. And until we deal with it, a lot of times we don't see change, or we don't have. It's like a cycle. We just keep getting into bad relationships. We keep getting into bad situations. We keep quitting things, or whatever our thing is. It just keeps happening without making that change and doing that. So you've got some ways to do that. One of those is some events that you have coming up that you host. You've
Mhm.
had one in the spring, got one coming up here in the fall in just about 4 weeks, which I'm very excited about. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak at that. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah,
But
I
talk
can't
a
wait
little bit
to hear
about
what
the
you got
events.
to say.
Do what now?
I said, "I can't wait to hear what you got to say."
I know. Well, I hope it's good. We're going to be excited. I'm looking forward to that. But talk a little bit about these events and how they're playing a role in getting your message out and just accomplishing
Mhm.
your mission with so many. I mean, you have a lot of speakers that are lined up. Talk
We
a little
do.
about that.
We have a lot of speakers, and some people say, "Oh, you don't need that many speakers," but see, we really do, because if you come to an event and you've only got a couple and you might not resonate with them, then it's a waste of your time, and money if it's one that you've paid for. So when you have the amount of speakers that we have and then the quality of speakers that we have, you're gonna resonate with somebody. You're gonna walk out of there resonating with at
Yeah.
least 5 to 8 of those guys that are gonna change your life.
Yeah.
And we have the speakers present at the event so that you can actually meet with them, talk with them, one-on-one with them, so you can pick their brain. It's kind of like a conference with coaching, and all
Yeah.
that's part
Yeah.
of your ticket.
Which is great because a lot of times with conferences, you'll have a speaker come in and speak and then they're gone.
Yep,
They come in, they deliver their message, and then they're gone. And with this one, you're creating some networking opportunities and
yeah,
opportunities to coach, which I think is really valuable. And so that's awesome. And what I also love about the whole platform and what you're doing is that we talked about this before. I think the stories that we have is these stories are meant to be told. The stories that God gives us, the experiences that we have in life, the journeys that we have, they're awesome for us, but they kind of lose their power if we don't share them, if we don't use them
they
to encourage
do.
other people, and other people go, oh wow, they're going through that as well. Oh wow, how and they overcame that. Oh, maybe I can overcome it. That's so powerful that you have gathered so many speakers to tell their stories.
And their stories are real, and they're not the rich and famous stories. They are believable stories that you can say, I get it. I'm right there
Yeah,
right now, and look what they did. How can
right.
I take that next step to do it? And a lot of times people are right on that cusp of the next phase of their life, but they're so stuck in their comfort zone
Hmm.
or so stuck in fear that they won't take that necessary step to better their life. And I would much rather see my definition of success is happiness. And I would much rather see people happy in the jobs that they're doing and the life that they're leading than any type of money.
It's interesting. I've been, I don't know if it's just because I'm getting a little older or not, but I think the older that we get too, sometimes it helps with perspective.
Mhm.
And I'm feeling the same thing that, money is a great tool and it provides opportunities and there's nothing wrong with money.
Yeah.
I like having money, being able to use it, being able to give to people, serve and provide my family with experiences. Those are all great things. But at the end of the day, what really matters? I think that's the question that everybody needs to ask. What really matters? And for everybody, it might be a little bit different, but it's how do you define success? How do you define happiness? How do you define what really matters? And that's critical, I think, for everybody to ask that question. And you said comfort and fear; those are two um, emotions, I guess. Fear for sure, but comfort is more of a circumstance. Those are two things that really
Mhm.
hold people down. Talk a little bit about that in your own life and how you encourage people to move beyond those things.
Well, man, for me, I've been self-employed since high school. So I've always been able to work, find my own way. But I was so involved in the life that I thought and the person that I thought that my family wanted me to be or my parents wanted me to be. And then you get entwined and you're growing these massive companies and you got a little bit of debt that goes with it. You have all these employees that you're responsible for. Then your family's working for you. So you have all this stuff going on and the reality is you hate what you do. You
Right,
hate the
right, right,
job that you created.
right.
And that was what happened to me, and I couldn't step out of it because I was so involved. I could step out of it. I didn't think that I could step out of it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And again, I think that's the real thing is that the word stuck just keeps coming back to mind. People
Mhm.
just feel stuck, like they just don't know how to move beyond that. And I love the movement that you guys are doing. I love how that's working out for you. How did if you're cool with it, let's talk about your story. How did your story
Mhm.
unfold to where you reached this point where you said, "This isn't what I want to be doing. I want to do this." Like, where did that change happen for you, where
Yeah.
it really took root?
Well, for me, let's see, I've been a believer since I was a little girl, and I wasn't living the life that I should have. So I was kind of in and out of church, coming back, and uh, when things would get bad, you're coming back to God and saying, "Okay, please
Right.
help me. I'm sorry," and all these things. But I still wasn't applying His word to my life. So I was definitely blessed. I had great job, great family, friends, things. I had a nice income, but I wasn't happy, and 2 reasons. The first thing, I wasn't happy because I wasn't living in my purpose, and the most important reason is that my actions were not honoring Christ. So, when you put those things together, the quality of my life was absolutely horrible, and because I wasn't doing what I should have been doing, I was making bad choices, I was getting involved with the wrong people, and it landed me in a jail cell for 4 years. And at that moment, I said 2 things. I can stay here and I can be like everybody else and just do my time and come out of this and just duck my head and go, or I can make good use of this time and let it be a good thing and use that to work on myself to change my mindset, to change my actions. And because I was been in church for so long, I have I've studied the Bible for over 20 years, so I was able to use that scripture in my life to make those necessary changes. And I changed my priorities from a jail cell. So I worked on relationships from jail. I worked on my mindset, my body image, everything that was going on in my life that needed to change. I started to do that right there in a jail cell. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, sometimes we need to just be forced to slow
Mhm.
down a little bit to figure out what really matters. And I'll tell you this, I've seen way too many people with a lot of money, millionaires who are miserable, who aren't happy in life, who have everything in the world that they could want, but it didn't satisfy. I've heard too many stories of people saying, I had the perfect job. I had,
Mhm.
more money than I knew what to do with. I had the quality of life that I wanted, but something was missing. I've heard way too many people share those stories, and I just think it comes back to we have to ask what's most important. My good friend Nick, thanks for watching the show today. I appreciate you jumping on. Nick says that money is a tool, not an end goal.
Mhm.
And I want to go back to that word that you used earlier, which is purpose and passion.
Mhm.
Finding your purpose and then just being passionate about chasing that purpose, like being so
Mhm.
singularly focused of going after that purpose. And again, that's the other part too. I think in our world, we're so distracted. It's so
Mhm.
easy just to lose focus and to be on to the next shiny object, and that's and also a challenge that people have. But purpose is really important. How do you encourage people to really find their purpose? And people go, well, gosh, I don't know. I mean, what is my purpose? What do I do? Like, how do you coach people and encourage people to figure out what their purpose is in life?
Well, first you need to figure out what makes you happy. So, whatever it is that makes you happy, then find that and then find a way to incorporate that into your life. You can't just quit your job and go out and do something. You have to find a way you have to have a plan to get to that next phase of your life. So you have to know what it is that you want. So if you don't know what you want, then you can never have a purpose because you don't know what you want. So you need to dig deep inside and say, okay, what is it that I really want in life? And then what does that look like? So if you can see what it looks like, then you can see where to start. But if you can't visualize it, then where are you going to start? So to find that purpose starts with happiness. So if you have a hobby, let's just say I draw. So I don't do it for a living. I bless it to others. And but if I could make a living out of that, how cool would that be?
Right.
It's not what I want to do because I would have did that. But if you could make a living out of the very thing that you love to do, out of that hobby that you really are better at it than just a hobby, and you could make that your profession and you could still have an income with it, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I think that an interchangeable word would be joy. What
Mhm,
really brings you joy in life, and being a little bit older, you get a chance to look back on different times in your life and say, which one of those situations brought me the most joy, and which
yeah,
one of those situations did I feel the most alive? Did I feel the most valued in terms of what I was providing for other people?
mhm,
Like, it's good to look back. I know for me, it was teaching. Whenever I was teaching, I felt like that was what brought me the most joy and I made the most impact. And I wish that it paid something, I would still be doing it. But now that actually feeds into my purpose, which even the podcasting and what we're doing now, which is, I mean, we're educating people today with your story and with the things that you
mhm,
have. The purpose of our podcast is to entertain, educate, and inspire, which that's the teacher. A
mhm,
great teacher does those three things. They entertain because they get the attention of the kids, they educate them, and they inspire them to be great. That's what we're trying to do. And so, even though I'm not a teacher, that purpose is in what I'm doing right now. And it's easier for me to look back and figure that out. For younger people, I would say try a lot of things.
You
When
have
you're
to because
young,
you don't know.
when you don't have a spouse, when you don't have kids, man, I'm telling you, that's the time to take risks and try things out. So, anybody listening to this who isn't married with no kids,
Mhm,
this is your time. Go try some stuff out and figure out what brings you the most joy. And it may not be a high paying job. And I think that's the
mhm.
mistake we make in America is we try to go after a high paying job or something that's
I
going to
do.
provide security or stability. And oftentimes we just need to realize that God has created us in a certain way. And if we follow his lead and the passion he's given us, that he's going to provide for us. And we just have to trust that. But that's hard. And a lot of people struggle with
It's
that.
really hard, and that's where I made my mistakes. I wasn't trusting in the very thing that I knew would work. I mean, I
Yeah.
knew it would work. God's promise says it's gonna work, so why wouldn't you believe that? And when I designed my new life around living in God's purpose for my life, he just opens all the doors. All I had to do was walk through them. He also closed a lot of doors,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
okay to never open again.
Yeah, it changes everything when you do that. And I heard somebody say this one time, and it's always made sense to me. God always writes better scripts for our lives than we do, But yet for some reason, we still want to hold that pen and we want to have some control instead of giving it over and just saying, okay, God, you
Mhm.
write the story. I can tell you this for my own self and for Beta Consulting Group. The moment that we changed our mission statement to say that we're going to glorify God and make much of him while building each client's brand, God has blessed us tremendously. And I would even tell you, it's not a financial blessing. I mean, we're in business. We have revenue. We're still in business. Everything is great.
Mhm.
But it's the people that he's brought into my
Right.
life that have been amazing and the people he's taken out of my life.
And see, that's it right
I see
there.
it. Yeah. I see
Sometimes
it that
some
way and
people
go,
need to leave.
wow,
Yes.
what a blessing, And I just don't think that people trust that. It's just hard to
Mm.
trust that because we're human. We want control. It's hard to trust. And so that these are the stories that I want to tell because I want to inspire people to take these risks. So risks of
Mhm.
trusting God. It's not a risk. You and I know that, but it feels like a risk
It's
when
a
you're
risk
starting.
when we don't.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened to me,
Yeah.
and, I've always wanted to help people. I've always been in sales. I've always, I taught for 3 years, taught high school biology and chemistry, and I've taught Sunday school. I've
Science.
Yeah, science. I've taught a lot of things throughout my life, but teaching it is different than applying it, and I needed to learn to apply the very thing that I was teaching to people
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I wasn't I was believing my own lies, right? So
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
to first figure out who I was, who I wanted to be, and realize that I did not like the person that I had become. That looking in the mirror, you just disgusted me. And I was so full of shame and embarrassment. And then what the problems that I'd caused for my family and everything that was going on, I decided that, you know what, no more. I'm going to change. I'm gonna prove that I've changed because you just don't wake up and say, "Okay, I've changed. I'm not gonna smoke anymore. I'm not gonna eat that anymore." Time shows change. So over the course of the last 8 years, I have been working on changing myself, and your actions speak louder than your words.
Yeah.
So when I was first released from prison, I thought, "Gosh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do with my life that's meaningful?" So I don't wanna go back to my old life. What am I going to do? And I said, you know what? You just need to go create your own platform. You know how to do this. You've been self employed since forever. Go do your own stuff that you can bring and incorporate in the purpose that you want to have, what God wants for your life, and then bring people together. And that's why we created the BTBY movement, which stands for becoming the best you. And the whole name is actually becoming the best you can be, overcoming challenges, because I don't care who you are, we all have challenges. We
That's a
all
really long
have to
acronym,
over
though.
Yes, it is. So we shortened it, yeah. But
I think BTBY is probably better.
it is, and it works, and we are a community, and the shift and the change that we see in people from the first time that they attend an event throughout the next couple months is just amazing, and it proves that it works. And, Dr. Ruben West always says, "Be careful who you surround yourself with, because if you're surrounded yourself with zeros and ones, 0 times a million is still 0, and just times a 1, you have not bettered yourself." But then you also have to think, are you that 0 or 1? So,
Mm,
because sometimes we are the problem.
yeah, yeah,
And
that's a
also,
great
let's face
question.
it, sometimes our family members are those zeros and ones.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you still love them, you can still be in their life, you can't help who your family is, but you don't have to associate with them the same way. You don't have to share everything with them. You don't have
yeah.
to do everything with them, especially if they are not the right people for your circle.
Yeah, and that's a tough balancing act because
It is.
family can be really important, of course, and we want to support family, but sometimes it's not healthy, and it's difficult to make those decisions. Before we get too far, I want to talk about this event coming up in St. Louis, October 21st through 23rd. Is going to be becoming the best you conference, and how can people learn more about this and talk a little bit about the event? What's going to happen?
Well, it's at the Clayton Plaza Hotel. You yourself is coming to speak. I'm excited to hear about that. We've got about 28 people that are going to be there to help transform your mindset. That's what this is about. It's not a business event. It's not even an event. It's not even a conference. It is an experience, and it is
Yeah,
designed to change your mindset, to overcome what's stopping you, because in reality is you're making excuses. The only one stopping you is you not taking the action to change your life. So if you really want it, it's
yeah,
possible. We
yeah.
have people there. We have got a guy that went from homeless to homeowner, a guy that was in and out of jail, and,
Which let's just say
yes,
that's almost that's difficult. That's
yes,
really difficult to do.
yes.
That's not
And
easy. If you're
no,
homeless, you don't have an ID, you don't have a job, you don't have an
nothing.
address. I mean,
Mhm,
you're starting literally from scratch. I
mhm.
mean,
And
in
he
the
did it.
truest sense of the word.
He did it. He's very successful now. And then Dean Storer is going to be coming. He graduated high school with a third grade reading education level, and he's now an author. He coaches people.
Wow.
He's older now, but he was in and out of jail, drugs, you name it. And actually, what turned his life around was Christ. So he
Hmm.
got saved, and his whole world changed. Dr. Reuben West is going to be there. I mean, we just have people from every walk of life, every class of money, if you want to call it, that's going to be there too. We've got a guy that's a self-made millionaire. He lives his life very simple. Saucony Prince is going to be there, and he's going to reintroduce you to yourself.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I mean, there's a lot of great people that are going to be there, and some unknowns, and I like that because
Mhm.
it's more of a common man's story, like or
It
common woman's
is.
story. Like this is just real life. It's
Mhm.
not the people necessarily that have it all. It's
Yeah,
people
it's
who are
not
just
that
in the
1% of
process.
people that,
That's
you
right.
know, in the pursuit of happiness, that show, yeah, that little that forgot his name now.
Will Smith.
Yeah, Will Smith that he played in
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
the life that he wanted, who didn't have any money, and, when
right.
that guy's asking for $5 and he's got a 5 and a 1 in his billfold, and he hands that over knowing that's all he has, but he still
Yeah,
did it. But it can happen in real life, it doesn't have to
yeah.
be the 1% of people.
Well, and
That's
it shows that success is not just the money,
it's not.
it's
Exactly.
getting back your family, it's getting
Yes.
back your time,
Mhm.
it's, whatever it might be, there's different measures for success. So I'm excited about that. And again, so blessed to be able to be part of it, and to speak at it and be a part of what you're doing. So it's just awesome. All right, Brenda, we got to transition for a minute, okay? So there's a national day today, which every day is a national day. Do you know what today's national day is?
I don't.
All right, well, it is National Coffee Day.
Oh,
Are you
I
a
did see something about
are
that.
you a coffee
Mhm.
drinker?
Nope.
You're not.
I'm not.
Nice.
Uh-uh.
Me too.
Nope.
I've never had a cup of
Mm-mm.
coffee a day in my life, and there's
I
a
don't like
bad
the
story
smell, I
behind
don't
that.
like it.
I do like the smell. Now, my
Mhm,
wife drinks coffee, and I like making coffee for her, but that bitter taste, I cannot get over that
mm-mm,
taste. Even with this sugar and stuff, I can't just, not, can't. Mm. So you and I both are the same. We have massive amounts of energy without coffee.
mhm.
you
I've always
know,
had it. I don't I
yeah.
don't
I,
I don't understand the sitting on the couch, most successful people are not sleeping their life away.
yeah. I mean, well, I get good sleep. I'm
Mhm.
a 7 to 8 hour a
Oh,
night
well,
sleeper.
that's okay, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about sitting
But
on the couch, not doing anything, woe is me,
yeah, I know.
sleep until 10, 11 o'clock every day. There's
Well,
just
it's
things.
amazing.
Yeah.
You get good sleep, you take care of yourself, you eat some good food, and your energy level's pretty good. So I'm with you on that. So it's probably not good that National Coffee Day is what we're celebrating today, but it is what it is. So for those coffee drinkers out there, I guess go enjoy your coffee, have a good time with it. My daughter's starting to get into it, and I'm like, no, because it's like $5 every time she wants something from
It's expensive.
Starbucks.
But you know
It
what?
is
People will
expensive.
spend, $50 a week on coffee, but won't spend $300 to come change their life at a conference.
So true. So
Mhm.
true. It's like what do you really value? So that's our challenge to everybody. Say, listen, take that coffee money and come spend time with us on October 21st through 23rd in St. Louis to improve your life. Just get some inspiration, hear some stories, and get moving. Which is going to be awesome. So, yeah, okay. All right. Moving past that, we also have a segment, Brenda, called the Random Question of the Day. Now, this question is so random that I don't know what it is. I haven't seen it. Let our producer do it every day. It might be a good question. It might be a funny question. I have no idea.
Uh-oh.
So let's go ahead and throw it out there and see what it is today. The random question today is, what is the longest period of time you've gone without sleeping? Oh, we were just talking about getting sleep.
Mm,
So, interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
How
for
about you?
me, I used to be in the janitorial business where we cleaned a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
commercial
Yeah.
buildings, so that's all evenings, and I was a mom of 4, so there sometimes up to 30 some hours without sleep.
Yeah, yeah. I
Mhm.
don't know that I know the actual number, but I do know this. In college, I wrote for the newspaper, and 8 a.m. on Friday was our press time. And so there were many, nights, especially in the winter when basketball games were on Thursday nights, away games that didn't get over till 10. Then,
Mhm.
we had to drive back, write the story, get it all put in the paper and all that. There were many times where I didn't sleep on those Thursday nights in college. No coffee. Maybe might have
Yeah,
had a
me
few
either.
Cokes, but no coffee. But uh, you know, I know that I stayed up pretty much a day and a half at least on some of those days where I had to go to class all day and may have had something. So I have a feeling that it's somewhere between 35 and maybe 48 hours. I may have gone, basically a whole day without sleep and then just went back to sleep that night. So, or maybe 40 hours, something like that. So I bet that's kind of where mine is.
Mhm.
It's rough though. It's
It's
brutal.
it's rough, and I've done it more than once, unfortunately.
I don't know how those Navy SEALs and some of the others in some of those really intensive training programs go 72 hours, 60, I mean,
Mhm.
whatever it is. Like, I literally cannot fathom. being awake that long. I mean, it's just crazy.
I would crash and burn. I'd just
Oh
drop
yeah,
somewhere and I'd be done.
it'd be
Yeah.
brutal. I value sleep more than most things in life. Sleep is a very
Mhm.
valuable thing
Well,
for
it's
me.
how you
So
heal. It's how
yeah,
you
right.
refresh. Mhm.
Restorative processes. That's
Yeah.
so good. People just don't realize that. And I don't know how people sleep for 4 hours and function, but teach their own. But that's not me. I'm a 7 to 8 minute or hour sleeper every day. And this brings us to a good point. We're going to finish on this. I think it's important, Brenda, that we end with this. It's important for everybody to start to embrace the idea of running their own race, whatever
Yes,
their race is. Not anybody else's. Don't
yes.
compare. What's your race? What race are you running?
And
And how
don't
are you going to
worry
run it?
about everybody else's.
Yeah. It's so easy to do, isn't it? It's
Mhm,
just so easy to compare. It's so easy to look at someone else's life or what else is going on and think I'm missing the mark. I'm not, it's
mhm.
just so easy to do. But everybody needs to embrace their race, run their race, and figure out how they can run it the absolute best they can. Brenda, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been great having you on. 30 minutes goes by like that every day, but it's great having you on the show. Can't wait to work with you October 21st to 23rd at the Becoming the Best You conference here in St. Louis. Looking forward to that. And I hope you'll come back and see us again soon.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And everybody who's watching, thanks so much for being a part of it. Nick, thanks for the comments. Appreciate that. Make sure you come back tomorrow. It is Finish Strong Friday, everybody. And we've got Michael Stolarczyk on the show from Seeker Logistics. We also have episode 126 of The Word on the Street, which is going to be with John Sutton over at Sunset Transportation and Peter Stefanovich of Left Lane Associates. It's going to be a great show. So everybody have a wonderful rest of your day. Come back every day for another episode of Standing Out, and we'll see you guys real soon. Brenda, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.